Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I have a new VGC 14 battle for you all. This was part of the Nugget Bridge live tournament that took place this past Sunday, and for those that don't know, Nugget Bridge, which is the premier VGC website, holds these weekly tournaments for players to get better at VGC. Not only is it great practice, but you can actually qualify for the Nugget Bridge Invitational if you do well enough in these live tournaments. And the Nugget Bridge Invitational is basically an invite-only Swiss online tournament with a lot of prize money on the line. It's basically like an online fan-made version of Worlds, and it's always a lot of fun. So if you want to practice VGC weekly, definitely sign up for the Nugget Bridge forums and check out the online tournament section, because these tournaments are held every week and they're an excellent way to practice VGC, especially if you live in an area that doesn't actually have VGC tournaments. I also streamed this entire tournament on my Twitch channel, and if you guys don't follow my new channel, give it a follow at twitch.tv/CybertronVGC. I'm going to be doing a lot of Aura stuff very soon, including streaming Doubles Battle Spot, so stay tuned for that. And once the new VGC rules are out, I'm hoping to stream at least 3-4 times a week, so it should be really exciting. Anyway, this match was earlier on in a tournament. My opponent had a pretty scary team of Kangaskhan, Talonflame, Azumarill, Raichu, Smeargle, and Aegislash. So he had double fake out from Raichu and Kangaskhan, which I was really scared of. I knew that if I could get the Trick Room up, Mawile and Rotom Heat and Hariyama should be able to clean through his team pretty easily, because most of it is relatively frail, but Smeargle gave me a huge scare in team preview. To counteract the Kangaskhan Smeargle lead I was predicting, I went with Gothitelle and Mawile, which also fares pretty well against the rest of his team. Intimidating Kangaskhan is really huge, and the only way Kang Smeargle can really win against that lead is if Smeargle hits all its Dark Voids, I have max turn sleeps, and Kangaskhan gets 2 power-up punches off, and the chances of that is really unlikely. So I figured I'd play it by ear and see how it goes, but I felt pretty good against with Goth and Mawile. So without further ado, let's get into the battle. Now, of course, my Gothitelle is carrying a Chesto Berry, so it can afford to take a Dark Void, so my opponent's basically going to have to hit 2 Dark Voids on Gothitelle and a Dark Void on Mawile, and I'm going to have max turns of sleep for this to go really poorly. Of course, I am still kind of rolling the dice, but I didn't really have many better lead options per se, especially because I didn't know what item the Smeargle had, and if it did have a Choice Scarf, then even my Salamence wouldn't be able to outspeed it. So I do lead with that, and he indeed does go with the Kangaskhan Smeargle lead as I predicted. On the first turn, he's obviously going to Mega Evolve, and I'm not going to protect with Mawile here. I'm going to just play Rough and Trick Room, because if he misses Dark Void on Mawile, then I can actually knock out the Smeargle, or at least bring it down to its Focus Sash. And even if he gets the Dark Void off, I basically take a free turn of sleep, meaning Mawile can wake up immediately the following turn, and I don't mind playing with those odds. He goes for the Fake Out onto God, doing a decent amount of damage, and he does go for the Dark Void with Smeargle. At this point, I'm still not sure what item it has, but I get the feeling it's a Choice Scarf. Gothitelle actually avoids the attack, which is really nice, because it basically means I'm guaranteed to get Trick Room off, and I'm not going to complain about that whatsoever. Basically, in order for my opponent to win, like I said, with this lead matchup, he's going to have to get everything right, and with that first turn, that's going to put me in a huge advantage. The following turn, he goes for another Dark Void, but Mawile's already asleep. It is going to connect with Gothitelle, but like I said, I do have that nifty Chesto Berry, which is going to wake me up. Kang goes for a power-up punch onto my Mawile, and like I said, this makes sense. He's going to get himself to +1 with 2 boosts, of course, negating the Intimidate and getting another one up, getting another seemingly useless critical hit along the way. Mawile unfortunately does not wake up this turn, but I wasn't really expecting the 1-turn wake up, especially since I was lucky enough to dodge a Dark Void with Goth. And I do get up the Trick Room up, which is huge. This following turn, it's not really urgent that I pick up the KO on Smeargle, because there's not really much Smeargle and Kang can do against Mawile, but ideally I'd like to knock it out. And Mawile is fortunate enough to wake up and hit the Smeargle, and previously the last turn showed that Smeargle was actually Choice Scarf, so I really wanted to just get that out the way because it makes the late game easier. Smeargle spamming Dark Void is never really any fun. I get the Tickle off on Kang too, which means I can target it the next turn with a play Rough and actually KO it. He reveals the Crunch, which I really wasn't expecting, and that's an excellent move for him because he's going to be able to knock out my Gothitelle, which he wouldn't be able to normally do. I bring in my Rotom Heat now as he brings in Azumarill, and I feel really confident about my position. I'm not expecting the Kangaskhan to stay around, so I'm going to play Rough the Azumarill just to get as much damage off as possible and Will-O-Wisp the Kangaskhan slot. He switches into Aegislash, which is a pretty great switch on his end. I do get to play Rough against Azumarill, which is great, but his Azumarill is clearly built to survive that attack as it hangs on, eats its Citrus Berry, and heals back to around 30%. Rotom does hit the Will-O-Wisp though, and that's really nice because it means the Aegislash is basically on a timer. And Mawile versus Aegislash often ends up being a endgame situation, so getting that burn is going to be crucial later on. This following turn, I expect Rotom Heat to take this Aqua Jet because based off the damage the previous turn, but it actually isn't able to survive, and I think it was pretty careless of me to leave it in. I really should have stayed out or switched it out into Hariyama, which I had in the back. So unfortunately, I lose Rotom Heat, which is really bad because now I don't have a really good way to knock out the Aegislash. I was expecting a Shadow Ball this turn, but instead he goes for the Substitute, which makes a lot of sense. Aegislash hiding behind a sub was always really scary, especially against a Mawile, and he did knock out the Rotom Heat, which was the biggest threat to the Aegislash, so he's in a pretty great position right now. However, I've still got a turn of Trick Room up, and I have my Hariyama in the back. So this next turn, I know I can just Fake Out Play Rough the Kangaskhan because my Fake Out is faster than the Kang, and I'm hoping that that can pick up the KO. Normally, Play Rough does a decent amount, and with that chip damage from Fake Out, I'm hoping it can pick up the knockout, and it actually does, which is really great. Even had it not, though, I could have just Sucker Punched the following turn since Kang didn't have the Sucker Punch. Aegislash here is going to go for the attack, stance changing into Blade form, and I know as long as he doesn't get a special defense drop, I've basically got the game sealed up. He goes for the Shadow Ball onto the Kangaskhan, and what do you know? He gets the special defense drop. So that definitely makes things a bit more difficult. Even though the game is still heavily in my favor, he might be able to actually pull out a win, but I have to play smart, and I think as long as I make the correct moves, I've got this, but I still can't choke. I also am running out of time with Sucker Punch in terms of PP, and, you know, Aegislash, you don't want the Mawile Sucker Punch to get stalled out. This following turn, he is going to attack just to go for the KO onto Hariyama, because of course at this point, he needs to get the damage off, because he, like I said, is burned, and his Aegislash's lifespan is basically on a timer. He, of course, has that leftovers, but each turn he's taking a bit more damage. The Shadow Ball there, of course, knocks out Hariyama because of the special defense drop. Like I said, had he not gotten that drop, the game would have basically been 100% over, but he's giving himself a chance now. King Shield goes up, which makes perfect sense, not wanting to take a Sucker Punch, and I go for the Rock Slide this turn expecting the King Shield because I don't want to waste a Sucker Punch, and I don't want to play rough into the King Shield. There's really no reason for him not to King Shield there. A Substitute would have been a more aggressive play. So now I know he's going to have to go for the sub, because you don't want to attack, especially when you're in that range, and I know I can take a Shadow Ball, so I do go for the play rough instead of the Sucker Punch, and at this point I know as long as I keep on pressuring him and make the right calls, I'm going to be able to win, and basically predicting the last two turns was able to help seal it up for me. Had I played roughed into the King Shield, I think I actually might have lost, even though at that point I guess Sucker Punch was going to do enough. So getting the burn on Aegislash was huge because you saw how much it added up in the last couple of turns. I know there's nothing else the Aegislash can do this turn, so I go for the Sucker Punch, and fortunately enough I do pick up the KO and the win in a pretty tight battle. Of course, I got fortunate with Dark Void missing Goth on the first turn, but like I said, I had a game plan, and I knew that as long as he didn't get the perfect game set up, I would have been able to pull through, which ended up happening, even though Aegislash gave me a scare towards the end, especially with the special defense drop on Hariyama. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that game. It was really nerve-wracking, but fun while I was playing it. Like, comment, subscribe, of course, if you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.